All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. We have a very full agenda, commissioners, and we have a whole group of students who are down in room 601. So they're going to be here for about an hour and 45 minutes. So if by chance we get done early, you all can stop in and say hi to them. They are watching us live right now. Museum. Okay, so we're going to get started. We have, commissioners, a number of items to start us off, and then we have a total of 25 items before us this morning. After that, I'm going to call for an executive session. We have 3 items to talk about in executive session related to legal matters. And so after Cal, we'll go right down to 601, and then this afternoon we have our budget session before our meeting tonight. So it's going to be a full day. So we'll get started with the first one. I have a proclamation to read. I'm going to start with that. And then I am going to ask Kara Wood to join me for the presentation of the Redevelopment Ready Community Certification. And then we will get started on our action items. So I'm going to come up here. And I know James is out of town. Who's joining me for this? Dave. So Dave wants to join me, or Tom. Tom, wants to come out for this?
Dave was not feeling well this morning, so I'm feeling for him.
All right. Well, you'll do a fine job, I'm sure. So I'm just going to take a moment and read a proclamation. Oh, yeah, for the whole team to come up. Please do. So this is a proclamation to establish National Public Works Week. And we're also going to take this opportunity to thank our incredible employees who are out there every day doing incredible work in our city and making sure that we are well cared for. So welcome. All right, so this proclamation reads. Good? We're good? All right. The proclamation reads, whereas public works infrastructure, facilities, and services are of vital importance to sustainable communities and the health, safety, and well-being of the citizens and visitors of our great city. Whereas such facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of the City of Grand Rapids Public Works employees who have responsibilities within facilities, fleet maintenance, forestry, engineering, parks, recycling, refuse collection, street maintenance, traffic safety, water and wastewater treatment around the clock to ensure the health, safety, and comfort of our community. And whereas it is the mission of all public works professionals to use sustainable solutions to bring their communities the highest possible quality of life within a framework of environmental, social, and economic responsibility. And whereas 2018 marks the 58th Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now therefore I, Rosalind Bliss, Mayor of the City of Grand Rapids, do hereby proclaim the week of May 20th through the 26th as National Public Works Week in the City of Grand Rapids. And I ask all citizens to recognize and appreciate the incredible work that is done by our employees.
You know, I just want to say thank you to this team. I have now worked with teams so dedicated as this team. And, you know, sometimes, you know, I go home and we have long days and I know that I go to bed, but many of them have to be up in the middle of the night. I see those notices coming through my phone, but I know that I can go to bed on time. But we have a team here that is actually out there doing the work so this city can move forward. So I want to say thank you to each one of them for the work that they do.
Thank you again for your work. Next, I'm going to call up Kara Wood, and she's going to tell us about the recent presentation that we received from MEDC, certifying our city as a redevelopment ready community. So I'll just let you take it away.
So yesterday we were graced with the presence of Michigan Economic Development Corporation presenting us with the Redevelopment Ready Community Certification. Here's the physical award and representation. In front of you, you have a copy of the certification report. You may recall about a year or so ago, we came to you asking permission to embark on this journey where a quite lengthy review of planning and economic development went on, and they essentially gauged the work that we do against a lot of the best practices in a variety of different areas. And so what this certification ensures is that we have a transparent, predictable, and reliable process that we execute upon investment in our community. And so what this tells investors in the state of Michigan is that we are, right now, the largest redevelopment ready community in the state of Michigan, and we join the ranks of many who are already certified and many who are engaged in the process. Suzanne Schultz in planning was also part of this process and her team, and she also serves on the advisory committee for this program. So we were excited to receive this final certification yesterday. I will say that there is still work yet to be done. We will continue to be reporting on our progress and also using the best practices to improve as we continue our journey. Be glad to answer any questions. Otherwise, you have the Redevelopment Ready Certified pin and the report in front of you.
Commissioners, any questions? I know Commissioner Kelly was with me yesterday for the presentation. Any questions around this table?
Congrats.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All of you.
Yeah. I did have one person reach out and say, "Weren't we already redevelopment ready?" And I said, "Yes, we've always been very effective in our redevelopment work, but this was
Validation of all
a validation and affirmation of our work, and also meeting the expectations that MEDC has put in place. Probably 2 years ago they announced the Redevelopment Ready Communities process.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you, Carol.
Yep.
Thank you for your leadership. Enjoy that awesome certification plaque, medal. All right, Commissioners, next that will take us to a resolution authorizing participation in water main agreement and postponement of special assessment proceedings.
Support.
All right, Miss Jessica Wood, you want to tell us about this?
Sure. Good morning. So as you're aware, the city's been moving toward addressing some sodium chloride levels in the Knapp's Corner Drain District area. And you've already actually begun the special assessment process to deal with this issue. You might recall that you adopted a resolution beginning that process, and you already held a public hearing on it, which took place May 1st. In the meantime, however, the major players or participants within that area have been talking, and they've come together and decided to enter into a voluntary participation agreement to get phase 1 done. So it's really a very efficient solution to getting those folks hooked up to the water system quickly. And also this resolution authorizes the postponement of the special assessment proceedings for now so that we can work to address phase 2 collaboratively later. Does that make sense? So what you have attached to this resolution is the participation agreement setting forth everybody's roles and responsibilities.
Thank you. And Commissioners, we talked about this briefly at our evening meeting last time we met. We knew that work was being done with our partners. I see some of them here with us today. Any questions about this?
I'd just like to thank our partners for their forthrightness and stepping forward to address this with us. And it shows you the kind of community we have and the people are willing to help. So it's really good that we are at this point.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next it will take us to we have 3 items where I'll have Tim Kelly join us. We have a resolution approving the DDA budget, the Monroe TIFA budget, as well as the Downtown Improvement District. So we'll start with the first one. Can I get a motion for the resolution approving the Downtown Development Authority fiscal year 2019 budget request?
So moved.
Support.
All right, so Mr. Tim Kelly, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. Pleasure as always to be with you. So I'm excited to be presenting the proposed fiscal year 19 budgets for the 3 boards that DGRI administers. As the mayor mentioned, those would be the Downtown Development Authority, Monroe North Tax Increment Finance Authority, and the Downtown Improvement District. Although they are 3 separate actions and resolutions, I am going to bundle them all into one presentation, recognizing you have a long meeting. So I'll point out before I jump in that all 3 of the boards did approve unanimously the proposed budgets at their last meetings, and so I'm excited to bring these recommendations to you. Before I get into some of the specifics and projects, just a quick reminder of our budget process. So we do very much view this as a year-round process where at the beginning of each calendar year, we begin with our ideas and prioritization. That culminates with the request before you today, as well as the final adoption for each of the boards at their next meetings in June. From there, we then go into implementation, and then we're always evaluating our work and progress against our organization goals and the community's priorities for downtown. And a lot of that work is certainly highly collaborative and participatory. It happens both with our boards, but also a lot of the legwork happens with our alliances. So we do have 5 volunteer alliances that are made up of community stakeholders. That's about 85 people that participate and help to evaluate our projects and priorities each year. And they do a lot of that legwork, as I mentioned at the beginning of the calendar year, before we even bring recommendations to our boards. And all of our work has been made all the more clear through the GR Forward plan. So with the adoption of that master plan in December of 2015, our work has really been clarified and really been devoted to making sure that we are implementing the plan. It is a plan of action, and we pride ourselves on making sure that the plan is being realized. That said, we do always want to make sure we're open to new ideas and priorities that emerge through the community. So through new and existing partnerships, as well as staff projects and anything we hear in the community, we're always open to hearing good ideas. And so in terms of the budget before you, the budgets I should say before you, we are looking at about 88 projects for this year. 98% of all of our discretionary funds went through that alliance process, so there are only 2 of the 88 that weren't there. That said, 100% of our discretionary funding is devoted toward implementing GR Forward this year. You might ask what a non-discretionary fund or project might be. Those would be things like bond payments or some of our multi-year reimbursement agreements with developers. So real quick, some highlights of what we're going to be doing organized around our GR Forward goals. The first being river restoration or revitalization. So we are continuing to partner, of course, with Whitewater to support that initiative and make sure that they are ready to submit for permits and get to work here in the next year. We're also working really closely with the city, Parks Department and Engineering to look at some asset management and long-term sustainability planning for the river corridor. We want to make sure that all the investments that we expect to be seen in the coming years, that those are done thoughtfully and coordinated so that the amenities that are down there are going to be able to be enjoyed for a number of years. In addition, we're continuing the design for Lions Square. So we have money set aside to finalize construction documents and hopefully move into construction in the next year, next 12 months. And then also looking at making sure that our existing trails, as we build them out, making sure that they're safe and accessible. So we're looking at a trail crossing at Michigan Street, so behind the post office as well as the convention center. We're also going to be moving quickly into design on the west side of the bridge where there was that tragic accident a couple weeks ago. We want to make sure that we're prioritizing pedestrian safety, and so that's some work that will be happening related to the river. And goal 2, in creating our true downtown neighborhood home to a diverse population, we continue to be supportive of the affordable housing efforts that are important citywide. We want to make sure that we're doing our share in downtown to preserve affordable housing and promote it wherever possible. Of course, continuing to spur investment and development. We are in a bit of a boom at the moment. We have about $750 million either under construction or planned, and we want to make sure that downtown remains a place for investment. It's welcoming for investment. And then in addition, we're supporting a lot of the Heartside quality of work, Heartside quality of life work that's going on right now. In addition to some infrastructure projects that I'll touch on in a moment, we are continuing to work with Mobile GR, as well as some of our partners on Division Avenue to look at public restrooms. We're excited to roll some of that out here in the coming months. In terms of transportation and mobility, a number of infrastructure projects. One of the primary ones would be support for the Division Avenue lighting. So that is a project we've been working on very closely with the city planning department, as well as police department and engineering, as well as the deputy city manager. We want to roll that out here shortly to improve the lighting on Division. We're also working with Mobile GR as well as the Rapid on new infrastructure for our dash system. We want to make sure that the dash is a viable transportation option for people. Even if they do drive to downtown, we want to make sure that they only have to park once and they can move about their day freely without having to get in the car again. Related to our fourth goal about more and better jobs and ensuring continued vitality of the local economy, we are very interested and focused on retail activation, particularly of some of our vacant ground floor spaces in downtown. So we currently have an RFP out that's requesting proposals in ways that we could use around $100,000 to promote ground floor retail in downtown. And that initiative is particularly supportive in hoping to attract minority and women-owned businesses. In addition, learning from some of the work that we did with Amazon, or with our partners on the Amazon recruitment, we're working with both the Economic Development Department and the Right Place to continue to try to attract large-scale business and office tenant user into downtown. A couple more slides here. The fifth goal, we're always focused on public space activation, both in building spaces. So we do have money set aside for the design of Calder Plaza. We want to make sure that the master plan that was done last year comes to fruition. So that is out on the streets currently, and we're hoping to move into design in the coming fiscal year. But then also, as these spaces come online, making sure that they are active, so we have a full slate of programming scheduled, not only in the summer, but also in the wintertime. Again, with our focus on being a 365-day-a-year city, we need to make sure there are options for people to get outside and be active in the winter months. And then the sixth goal, and certainly last but not least, has to do with our support of the Grand Rapids Public School investments in downtown. This year, we are going to be supporting some public space improvements around the museum school that will be opening in the fall over at 54 Jefferson. So we are excited to see that come to fruition. Two more slides, just a couple of highlights for the Monroe North TIFA. Certainly they have a number of the projects that I just went over. Their boundaries obviously a tad bit smaller. One of the projects that they're going to be supporting this year is the Newberry Street reconstruction. That's a key corridor that connects not only up to Belknap Hill, but also connects across the river over to the west side, and so there will be some public improvements that occur there in support of the new hotel that's going in on Monroe and Newberry. And then on the downtown improvement district side, again, making sure that downtown is vibrant with plantings, especially this time of year. There's a number, all of our flower beds are getting planted. But then in the winter, making sure our snow melts are operating, that we're clearing out sidewalks so that people can access parking meters, and generally just keeping downtown safe and welcoming. Just in terms of a breakdown by GR4 and the goals, you see here where our investments are occurring along those 6 goals. And then for investment, again, we are highly focused on implementing the plan, and this year over $10 million of our money is dedicated toward making sure that we are realizing the goals outlined there. With that, I am happy to take any questions you might have.
All right, commissioners, questions? Commissioner Kelly?
Yeah, just thank you for your continued focus on affordable housing and the exercise equipment. That's very exciting. We all need that. Newberry and Ottawa, as that intersection is looked at, could you also include or highlight the concerns around all the crashes that have happened there? We talked about that this morning in CD. Auto Body Fix-It Shop is located at the best place possible because they have been getting so much business because there have been so many crashes there. So as it gets done, I think if bikes are going to go through, it's going to be really important that we provide a flashing light or something to really protect people.
Yeah, and that will be part of the project. I believe it's a flashing light, and it won't be fully signalized, but there are going to be signage improvements and a signal that'll go in at that intersection.
And then one other thing, I had the opportunity to help at the Monroe North cleanup Saturday morning in the rain, and I would say that 90% of the stuff I picked up, which wasn't easy, was cigarette butts. Thankfully, I was wearing gloves, but it just points to, I served on the steering committee for the dry side, my husband for the riverside, and we know that a lot of that gets into the storm drains and into the river. So if there's something we can do, those receptacles that you have downtown probably need to go throughout the whole city, anywhere that's, close to the river, because a lot of that is emptying into our river. And if we can highlight that and get people to recognize what's happening, I think that would be very important to do.
Yeah, and you referenced the recycling program we have in place in the downtown improvement district boundary. We are looking to expand that, and our hope is that eventually we can get it throughout downtown.
And perhaps even offer it to the SIDS.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, we have great connections with TerraCycle, who helps administer that program.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. All right, other questions? Commissioner?
Thanks so much, Tim, for being here and presenting this. I'm curious to know if Scott Atchison has been coming to DGRI to talk with you all about the visitor center that he comes to speak with us about. And I think it has some level of validity to it, just kind of having a central location. But I also know the model that you have kind of dispersed many people in different areas throughout downtown. Is there a way to kind of take a look into what he's talking about and seeing if there's something that can be done?
Yeah, we're always open to that. He hasn't been recently, but he certainly has made the rounds at the DGRI boards over the years. We see it potentially as an opportunity. There was the Go site, which was over at the Graham, and we saw that as potentially an opportunity to get at some of what he was looking at.
Mm-hmm.
With the advent of mobile phones and things like that. I think there's maybe a bit more conversation about what that looks like. But I think to your point, there is some validity to making sure that people understand, what resources are downtown and how to navigate it.
Absolutely.
Easily.
So I have a map. I'll make sure that you get a copy of it.
That'd be great.
I think you probably have one, but
I might have a
wanna
couple.
share.
But yeah.
Most recent one. And he was at our last CAA meeting, right, Commissioner?
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Jones?
Yep.
All right, any other questions, Commissioner?
I just want to say thanks for expediting the priority for Bridge Street west of the river. We've gotten lots of communication from that community that lives right around there, and so it'd be great to see some improvements there. So thanks for putting that in there.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. All right, any final questions? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, next I'll take up the resolution approving the Monroe Tifa Financing Authority 2019 budget request.
So moved.
Support.
All right, so Tim, you want to share anything else about this one?
Nope. I kind of highlighted a number of the initiatives that are in the GR Forward category fall within the TIFA's purview as well. Again, their major capital project this year would be Newberry Street. There are a few more as the city, I think, looks to maybe relocate some of the facilities at Coldbrook that the TIFA might support, but those would be future years. So for FY19, Newberry is their major project.
Great. All right, any questions, Commissioners? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, and then third, that's our resolution approving the Downtown Improvement District budget for fiscal year 2019.
So moved.
Support.
All right, any other comments or additions?
No, again, kind of highlighted their major work is just continuing to make sure that downtown is safe, clean, and welcoming, making sure the flower beds are planted and that the sidewalks are clean, and then making sure the snow melt continues to operate. So.
Great. Wonderful. I don't think it's related to this, but since I have you here, do we have a timeline on the temporary furniture for Calder?
It is ordered and en route.
Okay.
We are anxiously awaiting its arrival, as I'm sure all of you are.
Yeah.
I think it'll be in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And as soon as we have it, it'll be out.
Okay, good. I like the parklet out there. I see people using it.
It helps,
so-
yeah. I think it's such a big space. We need some more activity. Yep.
Yeah, great, thank you. All right, any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
All right, next that will take us to a resolution approving the request from Fierce Coffee and Nut for a redevelopment liquor license to be located at 40 Pearl Street Northwest.
So moved. Support.
All right, welcome.
morning.
Good morning.
All right, so Ferris Coffee and Nut Company has applied for a redevelopment liquor license to be issued at 40 Pearl Street Northwest within the Downtown Development Authority. The DDA board approved this application at their meeting on February 14th, and the Planning Commission gave their approval on March 22nd with an effective date of April 7th. The remaining departments have also reviewed the application and are recommending approval.
All right, Commissioners, any questions about this? Seems to be a growing trend for coffee houses to also have beer or wine. All right, I'll call the question then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next up will take us to a resolution approving a request from GR Garage Bar and Grill for a temporary authorization outdoor service permit in connection with their summer block party event series.
So moved.
All right, so this is always a fun summer event. Goes from June till August. Anything to add on this request? I think we're all familiar with this.
Yep, so this is their temporary liquor license, which is going to be for the Garage Block Party Series on Wednesdays from June 6th to August 1st. It's also going to be for their World Cup party on July 15th and their Tomato Toss event on August 25th. It has been reviewed and approved by the required departments.
All right. Questions?
Just thank you for your work on this, as well as special events. Appreciate that.
Any of you going to the tomato toss?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be tossing.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution authorizing certain special events subject to Chapter 53 of the City Code.
Support.
All right, Ms. Yvette, you want to tell us about this?
Absolutely. So you have in front of you documents that detail the 55 special events that we have going on in the month of June alone. And of those 55, 35 of them had different items that we needed to bring before you. We're excited that the events are varied and they're throughout the community, and we look forward to a very busy summer.
Great. Indeed. All right. Commissioners, I think we all looked through the list. It's lengthy. It's good to see. Lots of good things happening.
Yes.
All right. Any questions, comments? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right. Next up will take us to a resolution authorizing Artprize 2018 to take place within designated boundaries in the city of Grand Rapids from September 19th to October 7th.
So moved.
All right. So, Vet, you want to tell us about this?
Absolutely. So Jory Bennett, who is the CEO of Artprize, is here as well. Jory, if you want to come up. So we're excited that there is a new location for Site Lab this year, and I'll let Jory tell you about it.
All right. Hi, Jory. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, we're very excited. Site Lab is going to be curating a satellite venue near the Baxter neighborhood at 415 Franklin Street. And then also Frederick Meyer Gardens will also continue to be a satellite venue this year. You want me to talk a little bit about our visitor services for that? So in collaboration and thanks to the support of the city and Mobile GR, we're going to be offering a sort of a suite of visitor services out at those satellite locations, specifically at Site Lab. That'll include signage at the site. We're going to do location callouts on our 100,000 event guides that we distribute to our visitors for free. We'll be posting the public transportation shuttle service that we'll be working with Mobile GR on throughout the 19 days, both in our event guide and our app and online. And also we'll have a volunteer visitor services site there, so we'll have volunteers there to help visitors with questions and also just encourage them to use the transportation that we're offering. So we're excited about that.
All right. Questions, commissioners? This is the 10th year. We're excited about that. Yeah. It's a big year. All right. I'll call the question then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Thanks, Troy. All right, next, that'll take us to a resolution authorizing sponsorship of Artprize 2018. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Josh Nearmore, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. One thing that we're trying to do a little bit differently this year is this is the 10-year anniversary of Artprize, and we're really excited about that. So one of the significant things that we'd like to really undertake this year is to increase the amount that the city contributes. As you see in your packet, this is almost a tripling of the previous year's commitments, but a couple reasons for that is we really want to use this as an opportunity to showcase how we want the accessibility of our mobility system for both residents and for visitors. So included in this packet is we've broken it down sort of by cost. So there's about $30,000 in-kind supportive services, which includes the traditional amount of waiving of the hooded meter fees, some other support for dash services to connect to the Site Lab installation in the Baxter neighborhood and connect that into downtown to the Rosa Parks destination, as well as something new this year that we're really excited to partner with Artprize on is accessibility services for the disability community. And looking and working with the Go Bus and for paratransit services. So there's some activity and some programming related to that, and there's an installation that'll be out at the Frederick Meyer Gardens specifically related to the disability art. And then in terms of actual cash contributions, that's broken into a couple different areas, which is the $15,000, which is our ongoing commitment to the African American Arts and Cultural Celebration. As well as sponsorship of the Artprize installation at Rosa Parks Circle, where all of the programming for all of the events will be. And then $50,000 for public transportation and parking services communication. Big reason for wanting to do that is using this as an opportunity to showcase the new Dash service that will be rolling out on August 27th. And we've been working with Artprize as part of the visitor guide, as well as for where installations are going to be located, to use that service to the best of its ability. We're excited that we'll have late night service already programmed, so we won't be having to extend dash hours of service or new service. We'll actually be able to use the existing service as is. The other piece is that we are going to be rolling out a new mobile payment for parking application in the next couple weeks.
Thank goodness.
Called Mo2 to replace Park Mobile, which we're very excited about. We've had some issues with Park Mobile lately, but those are really great opportunities for us because that is a service that's really targeted a lot at visitors. And one thing that I'd like to point out is about 200,000 of the visitors that come to Artprize live within 30 miles of Grand Rapids. So it's a really great opportunity for us to educate on all the different mobility and parking services that are related to the event, because those are hopefully not just coming just for Artprize, they're coming to all of the different events that we have within the community. So we're trying to use this as a different opportunity for us to be a lot more proactive in our discussion and opportunities for engaging the community and the changes for mobility. And so we've been working with Artprize staff and with a vet from Special Events to talk about how all of this is going to kind of roll out and be included as part of this year's 10-year celebration. And then afterwards, we'll be evaluating to see what we think the return on investment was as sort of the increased commitment to the overall event. And so Commissioner Kelly was at the Mobile GR Commission meeting and can add anything else that I might have missed.
Well, I think you should talk about our Mo2 Vegat and its connection to
Yes.
Mo2.
Yes, we actually, so and the Truscott-Rossman analysis had talked about different ways in which we could engage the community and different brands associated with the city. So the reason why we're calling the mobile payment for parking is Mo2 after Mo2 Vegat, the city motto. Because Mo2 means movement, so it's strength and activity is the city motto. So it's a great way for us to do that, and we actually are using some coloring associated with the Calder as well. So we're hoping to launch it in the next 2 weeks or so, and so you'll see more of it coming out. And also it allows for payment for transit with the new Wave card with the transit that we'll be working with the Rapid on, as well as eventually for bike share and other services. So that's part of the reason why we're trying to make this change right now as an opportunity. So.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? First off, I'm so glad. I'm done with my Park Mobile app. Like it drives me crazy. I can't get it to work anymore. But I've had lots of people complain about that. And then also with this conversion to some of the spaces, even the new parking ramp across from downtown, people have asked me like it's confusing to them because it's not Park Mobile and or they haven't been able to understand how the systems are connected. So will this be really seamless for folks? They'll be able to download an app, plug in a credit card. Will you walk us through?
So it has a couple different elements of it. So one, it has a wallet feature. So if you are unbanked and you don't have the ability to use a credit card, you can actually come into our office and we can exchange money and we can load that as part of that, which is what we're working on right now, which is another big piece, which the Treasurer's Office has really been talking about a lot more about the exposure to, different unbanked populations. And then also, if you use the wallet feature, you only get charged once for a credit card transaction. So once you load it with funds, it's a one-time only. And so you can use it as much as you have for that feature. So that's one benefit of it. The second is it's a locally branded application from a larger. So you will never accidentally not be able to find a parking space within the city. A lot of customers will say, I'm trying to pay for parking, and it's telling me I'm paying in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or another city, or they will get a ticket associated with that. Yeah. So we've seen an uptick on that, and so that's sort of the benefits, is creating a more seamless, locally branded application so that there's higher level of visibility associated with it.
Nice. And then we'll have a really robust communications plan to educate people that Park Mobile is no longer in existence and we're converting?
Yes, we are right now working on a whole bunch of scripts with 311. We're going to have a street team out there of some of the lead students that we are actually hiring for the summer to actually do some marketing and on the grounds, as well as the ambassador program through DGRI. And then we've been working with Amy Snow-Buckner in the Office of Communications on the rollout and the strategy associated with that. We don't have an exact date yet because we're trying to get the app approved in the Apple Store right now. So that's been sort of an issue with that. But this is a great opportunity through Artprize to be able to bring awareness to that from the visitor experience.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any Commissioner?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for the conversation we had earlier and for the explanation. You know, there has been some healthy discussion about tripling what we've given to this event in the past, but I think that it makes sense with the 10th anniversary to do a kind of a pilot experiment to see if we can get that return on investment. So thanks for that conversation and that explanation, as well as I do think it'd be great for us to get a report out on that return on investment after the event is over to make sure that it produced the outcomes that we wanted to see.
Yeah.
So.
And we have historically done that for the Mobile GR Commission, but we can include that as an informational item for the City Commission as well as in the packet, because we usually report out on the number of transactions for the parking system overall, but we can add, and then we do ridership associated with that for the Silver Line and for other transit. So we can roll that into our report out to you as well if you would be interested.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions?
I'll just briefly say, I think it's pretty creative to implement things and then have a time period where they can be tested out before Artprize, and then being able to have those new items in place when we have so many visitors. So I can see the investment already will probably pay off because you'll get more feedback relatively quickly.
Yeah. And I am so glad you're working with the Rapid and that connection is being made with the fairs. So. All right. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution to extend the pilot mobile food truck ordinance.
So move.
Support.
All right, Ms. Jessica Wood, you want to tell us about this?
Sure. So you might, think, didn't we just hear about the mobile food truck ordinance? And you did back in March, but it's set to expire because it is a pilot. It is going very well, but it's set to expire in September 2018. And while we're not asking you to make any changes to the ordinance today, we'd really like to make sure it doesn't expire as well, because this is typically a very active time of year for food truck operators. So all the resolution does today is amend the ordinance to push it out until I think we have January 2019, which is also the same time that it coincides with our next report that's due to you on the year 2 performance.
Great. All right, pretty straightforward. Commissioners, any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, I see Andy Guy in the back. Anything to add?
He wore a tie for nothing.
I saw that. I know. I feel like he did wear a tie. I should have called you up before I called the question. So thank you for your work on this.
I thought he had to go to Lansing after this. That's what I thought.
Great, thank you. All right, next that will take us to actually, Commissioners, we have a number of these before us. And I'm actually really glad to finally see them because I feel like we've talked about this for years. So it's nice to see these come forward. But we have a number of items to repeal language out of obsolete codes. They're all separate because they have to be done separately. But we'll try to, Jessica, if you want to talk about them in bundles, you're welcome to.
Okay.
Or if there are certain things, I know they were in all of our packets and we had time to read them, but we'll start with the first one. This is a resolution to repeal various obsolete business license code provisions around amusements. Can I get a motion?
Support.
All right.
Okay, so I promise I'll do this efficiently. So Amanda Morgan of the clerk's office and Stephanie McMillan have really undertaken this review. And like you said, it's probably not a shock to you. There are a lot of obsolete provisions in the business license section of our code. So this is just the beginning, and you're going to have more coming to you soon. So this very first one has to do with amusements, and I think this is the one that deals with like pinball machines, if I'm not mistaken.
And pool tables, right?
And pool tables,
Which
and
I
we were
wanted
licensing
eliminated
people,
years ago.
charging them hundreds of dollars for a license for
I got
to
complaints
have
all
a
the time.
pinball machine and providing absolutely no return on it, or never checking with them again. So that's why it's before you to make this change. And in this specific ordinance, this one's actually an amendment, so we're not getting rid of it entirely, but let's just say we're cutting it right down. So I don't know, Amanda, if you want to add anything to why we're just amending this as opposed to repealing it altogether, but it.
And then can you tell us if you're, when I was a commissioner, I got lots of complaints about this, particularly from our halls, from our Polish halls. So can you tell us, for those who still have pool tables or pinball machines, what this means for them?
Well, what this means for the people who have the amusement devices, which is all the pinball machines and pool tables and jukeboxes, this means that they're no longer going to have to license those machines through the city of Grand Rapids. The only reason that this ordinance is being amended rather than repealed is because amusement rides is also in this, and we do feel that that is still a safety concern.
But all the
rest
jukebox,
are going
everything
away.
else is
Totally gone.
eliminated.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Questions, commissioners?
That makes sense.
And there was just a carnival over on the west side, so I'm assuming they had to get a license.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Jessica, can I just ask one question about process and timeline?
Sure.
So will the individuals who in the past had to license after this is formalized, will they get notification that the change has been in place? They will, okay.
Actively? Okay. Sounds
Okay.
like they will.
Okay. All right, next one is a resolution to repeal various obsolete business license code provisions for coin-operated laundries.
So moved.
All right.
So this one would be a full-out repeal. We couldn't think of any logical reason to keep this on the books. We were issuing a license for coin-operated laundries and, serving no purpose. So.
Yes. All right, I couldn't agree more.
Right.
Questions,
Get
Commissioner?
stuck. That's
Well,
about it.
I agree. I think we don't need to do this, but at the same time, if there are issues where people lose their coins, is there a way to remedy that?
Right, and we talked about that a little bit, but there's always like a 1-800 number on the machine itself, or the operator,
Okay.
addresses those issues.
Mhm.
But they never come back to the clerk's office for
Anyway?
resolution anyway,
Okay.
so.
All right, good. Thanks.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, now is a resolution to repeal various obsolete business license code provisions under coin-operated car washes.
So moved.
Support?
All right, I assume this is similar reasoning to
Very
laundries?
similar, correct. There's always a sign up saying who you call if your coins get jammed, but they never call the clerk's office, so.
All right. Questions, comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next is a resolution to repeal various obsolete business license code provisions under motor vehicle rental agencies.
Okay, and this one, Amanda, if you want
So
to
moved.
explain this one.
Support?
Okay, I got moved and support. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Just trying
okay.
to keep moving along here.
We appreciate that.
Motor vehicle rental companies are required by state law to adhere to certain vehicular requirements. In the past, we have not done any inspections on them. We just require that they have insurance on file with the city. We have received no complaints to date in the last 5 years.
Great. All right, any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next is a resolution to repeal various obsolete business license code provisions under special event permits.
So moved.
Support.
All right.
This one seems particularly redundant because these folks have to go get a special event permit with Yvette anyway, and it covers everything. So we couldn't figure out why they had to also get a business license permit.
Yeah, great. All right. Any questions about that? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Glad to see Josh here. I hope you're writing this down. We're repealing all these business licenses that are obsolete. All right, next is a resolution to repeal various obsolete business license code provisions for ambulances.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, so this one, ambulances are heavily regulated by the state. So we weren't really offering any additional protections that weren't already covered by the state, and that was the rationale behind this one.
Good, Commissioner?
Just a comment, I'm really happy to see this removed. We do have, I know one of our police officers was doing some ambucab driving on the weekends and brought this to me a few years ago, and I'm really happy to see this removed. This, I mean, it's not making much extra money on the weekends doing it anyway, much less having to pay a license.
Yeah, agreed. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next is a resolution to repeal various obsolete business license code provisions under fees and bonds.
So moved. Support.
All right.
This is just sort of the catch-all ordinance, you might recall. And what we're doing here is asking you to amend it to eliminate the ordinance subject headings that you just repealed.
So it's technicality.
Correct. Yep, this is where we list all of the headings for the different fees that we charge people, and now we're going to have to remove several of those in light of these repeals.
Great. All right, any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, and the next one, last one, is a resolution providing for the publication of a proposed ordinance to repeal and replace in its entirety Chapter 114 of Title 7 of the Code of the City of Grand Rapids entitled Pedicabs.
So moved.
Support.
All right.
This one deserves a little bit more explanation. I think you have a red line version in front of you.
We do,
And
yeah,
okay, so
we
it's
do.
amended quite heavily. But just to highlight why we thought that this was necessary, first of all, it changes the inspection so that the inspections are done by an actual bicycle mechanic instead of poor Amanda, who is not a bicycle mechanic. That seemed to make more sense. Also, it was quite burdensome. We were licensing the drivers, the operators, the owners of the vehicle, pretty much everyone. It was costing upwards of $500 to get all the licenses required. Actually, more than that, since we licensed the drivers as well. Now, just the pedicab company will get the initial license. And then, if I'm not mistaken, each individual pedicab that they owned will be charged a much smaller amount, correct? So much more reasonable and streamlined. The other thing you'll notice that was severely beefed up is under section 7.604. The safety requirements are a lot more stringent than they used to be. If you look at your, in terms of headlights, brakes, and operative bell or horn, those kinds of equipment are now all required under this version.
Good.
All right, so commissioners, any questions about this? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, Jessica, thank you for all of your work on this, as well as the clerk's office. Appreciate your work. Thank you. All right, next this will take us to a resolution approving funding awards for CDBG home and JAG programs and the submission of the fiscal year 2019 annual action plan.
So moved. Support.
All right, well, if Connie Bohutch come on up and tell us about this.
Good morning. I apologize for my voice. This is the final step in our funding allocation process. You actually have two agenda items in front of you today because we needed to separate the Emergency Solutions Grants Program from the other allocations due to a conflict of interest that's been disclosed. The first, or I should say both of them, however, allows you to establish the funding levels for projects, authorizes the execution of grant agreements with our partners, and then also allows the Community Development Department to submit our annual action plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This first agenda item covers the Community Development Block Grant Program, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, and the Justice Assistance Grants. The annual action plan identifies specifically each project and its intended outcomes to be achieved during the time period of July 1, 2018 through June 30th of 2019. And that represents the third year of our 5-year plan. There's a 30-day public comment period. So those funding recommendations were released to the public on March 23rd. And for 30 days, we're out there for written comments, and we also held a public hearing on April 10th. When we brought those initial funding recommendations to you, they were based on planning estimates because we did not have the final award amounts from HUD. And we have received those, and I'm happy to announce that we have received increases in both Cdbg and home. And when we brought those initial funding recommendations to you, we had included contingency provisions that identified what we would do if there was an increase in those programs or a decrease. This resolution adjusts funding levels in accordance with those contingency provisions. So there's additional just over $300,000 in Cdbg and just over $400,000 in home funds. So the final the funding awards in the resolution reflect increases for home repair services, minor home repair program, ICCF, Eastern Elementary Housing Development Project, and the Dwelling Place Pine Avenue Apartments Project. There was also a proportional increase for public services activities under Outcome 5, which is to increase civic engagement and public safety. And there's approximately an 8% increase across the board for those organizations under that outcome area. And it also increases the amount that was held in, that was identified as a reserve for acquisition, development, and resale program, for which we use home dollars for. So it really gives us probably an additional 1 more unit, so about 4 units of affordable housing through the ADR projects. And so we're asking you to finalize this today so that we can get that draft completed, the annual action plan completed and submitted to HUD, because that serves as our application on an annual basis so that we can receive the funds.
Okay, so Commissioners, Commissioner Allen?
Sorry to ask you questions and
That's
use your
okay.
voice. The 371,576 acquisition development resale set aside, is there specific projects in mind for that we're waiting for the organizations to come in compliance, or has that yet to be determined where that'll be allocated?
So we have 3 organizations right now that have some funds remaining from the previous year. So the expectation would be that they would identify projects for those and move those funds out. Mm-hmm. And then this is sort of being held on a first come, first served basis. Okay. So that when those projects are done, then those funds will be available to do additional projects.
And then I know there's been ebbs and flows with it's labeled the ADR program in
Sure.
And home lingo. There's been ebbs and flows between new construction as well as purchasing existing and renovating. This can go for either. It can go for
Maybe for either.
For either. Okay, thank you.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Commissioner?
Well, I'm just, I'm concerned about our nonprofits, our nonprofit developers in the first come, first serve. Can you explain, are there going to be issues with them being able to move forward with some of the foreclosed houses that we have now?
I'm not sure if I can explain that now. The concern that we have, the reason that we've put it in the recommendations this way, is because it's been taking a long time for projects to get done, mm-hmm. and we only have so much time to commit the funds and actually spend them, or HUD takes them back. And so we want to make sure that, one, units get completed, and that it also, we're not holding, because right now, for example, we have funds for agencies that aren't spent from last year, and so we want to make sure that gets spent first. And then again, we don't want to just carve out and reserve it and then have it sit there and have the risk of losing it. I have to admit that the community development staff are really good about finding opportunities and being able to shift funds, and we come to you if we need to do that. And we've never sent any back, but I don't want to have a first time of sending any money back.
Right. I think it'd be helpful just to get a sense of what those are and where we are, list them, give us some more information.
If I can help respond to that. So Carol Wood and I and Jonathan Klooster are working with the foreclosure process this year to identify homes that may be available for that purpose. Okay. So we have conversations they have before we make that recommendation to you finally. But I know that we have to have a recommendation to you no later than June 12th, right, Carol? So we will have, you will know within that period of time. Okay. And I believe that we'll have homes available, and we understand the interest, so.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, if I can just add, it's good to hear that you all are working on that, because that was part of the concern for the nonprofit developers, is not being able to find homes that were in the price range where they could acquire those homes and do the renovations.
Yeah.
And so this gives us an opportunity to consider how we might remake that relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll do that.
And I think for me, and I know this sentiment is shared around this table, there's a real urgency to this, and so figuring that out sooner rather than later, and having these dollars spent and getting affordable homes on the market for families is a priority. And I think I'm sure Connie knows that, but I just want to say it publicly one more time that this is an opportunity that we want to see captured pretty quickly. So,
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Yeah, I just want to say, I know that our neighborhood associations will be thrilled with that 8% increase, so I appreciate that extra money being spread out there, and it dovetails with our goals with community police relations and community engagement.
All right, any other final questions or comments? All right, and I understand I have an abstention, one.
Not for this item, the next item.
Not for this one, the next, Commissioner Allen told me he needs to abstain from this.
Sorry.
So I will first call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and any abstentions?
I abstain. I apologize. I abstain. The Kent County Land Bank Authority is under contract with the Grand Rapids Public Schools on the Pine Place project. We have no financial interest in it. It's just a pass-through from us to Dwelling Place for some advantages for Dwelling Place. But because we have the purchase agreement, I feel I need to abstain for that.
Yeah, thank you. All right, that will take us to our next item, and that is a resolution approving Emergency Solutions Grants Program funding awards.
Support?
All right, so Connie again.
Okay, so this followed all the same process in terms of the 30-day public comment period and the funding recommendations as the previous item for Cdbg and home. The only difference is we needed to remove this from that big item so that Commissioner Jones could recuse himself. The funding awards for ESG were a decrease of $403 from the previous year, so not too much of an adjustment, but the change from the initial recommendations adjusted the city's administrative dollars, and also the Salvation Army Housing Assessment Program. Both were just shifted downward slightly. So
Okay.
everything is relatively the same from the initial recommendations.
Great. So commissioners, questions? All right, I don't have necessarily a question specific about this. So Connie, you still serve on the steering committee of ENTF?
Actually, Aaron Banshaw, on the ENTF, yes, I do.
You're on ENTF.
The Coalition in Homelessness, Aaron Banshaw serves on that steering committee.
Yep, that's what I thought. So in the past, we have had updates and presentations on the work of not only ANTF but the Coalition on Homelessness. I don't think we've had one since Tracy Kaufman left.
So we typically have an annual update, and that's scheduled for July 10th. Thank you.
That's what I was going to ask. So will you do that, or will Wendy come?
So Wendy Randall will do that, and Jessica Vales will also be with her.
Okay, and Jessica will specifically talk about the work on the
For the
Coalition on
coalition.
Homelessness.
Yes.
And will that include an update? I know a couple of years ago they had a 4-year strategic plan they were working on with action items. Will that include an update on that strategic plan?
It should talk about what their intended plans are for a new plan. I'm not sure specifically, but I can ask them
Okay,
to give you any
Okay.
information on that as well.
great, all right.
I think we have time to tell them what we'd like to hear.
I'm glad to hear it's scheduled. That's a really important issue for all of us. And
So Mayor, were you asking for a report on the outcomes of the last strategic plan?
I think,
Which I think is reasonable to ask for.
yes, I would like an update on the outcomes of the last year and where they are with the strategic plan that was adopted a couple years ago, and then also the process for updating the strategic plan moving forward. Okay, all right. All right, any other questions about this? Commissioner?
I have to recuse/abstain for this particular item.
All right, okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And any abstentions?
Aye.
All right, it carries. Thank you. Great, thank you, Connie. All right, next we have a resolution approving a second amendment to the agreement with Jones Lang LaSalle, or also known as JLL, for the 201 Market Avenue Southwest and related city-owned properties project that they are working on. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, Kara, what do you want to tell us about this?
Good morning. This is a request for a second amendment that would extend the agreement through May 15 of 2019. This is simply an extension of time to continue the work on the project and give us the time we need to negotiate and make a recommendation to the commission. The conversations with Flaherty and Collins have been proceeding, and they focused on identifying opportunities to close the previously identified gap in their pro forma proposal. And we're working with them to refine the expected cost of infrastructure and clearly define the eligible activities for brownfield tax increment. We're also working to identify additional incentives and resources to support the project because, of course, a project of this magnitude requires a heavy lift, certainly, and will require many sources of revenue to help support the project. The next step would be to submit the project pro forma and site renderings to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation for consideration of the transformational brownfield. And we expect that completing a test fit on a potential future site would also be completed in the near future. Based upon the timeline for consideration of the review of state and local incentives, which could take up to 9 months, a 1-year extension is being recommended to allow the adequate time to complete all of those necessary negotiations.
So just to be clear, this is an extension of time, not funding.
Correct.
And then secondly, you talked a little bit about next steps. Before anything would go to MEDC, it would have to go through Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, or no?
No, we can submit for preliminary review of pro forma and the renderings.
And then it would come to...
Yes, once it's determined whether or not we're going to seek the transformational brownfield program funding, then it would come through the Brownfield Authority.
Okay. Commissioner O'Connor?
Yeah, I mean, I understand these projects take a lot of time. I guess I'm just a little frustrated by some of this in the sense that, we met, I was on the steering committee for this, and it's, the original contract still indicated that they're supposed to be helping us along with our site location and our cost for move, and so here we are a year, the extension, the end of the first contract for time, and we still don't have any, at least I've not been briefed on any notice of where we might possibly move to or how much that costs, and yet we're still continuing down this path of negotiating and trying to find tax credits to help this project along. And I just, we gave them a year to do this, and we still don't have anything that's been presented to me after a year. And so I just, as much as I know we need to, I'd like to continue forward in trying to do this, whether or not I agreed with the folks that we're negotiating with. I feel like we're a little out of order here still.
Kara, do you want to speak to that? I think that work is still
So
occurring.
both projects are being pursued on a similar path, and they are assisting us with both finding a site and working on the pro forma for the development.
And I would assume, we haven't been briefed largely because of the real estate aspect of this and needing to be mindful of potential implication for that. Is that right?
That's right. So I can tell you the work is proceeding. We have looked at several sites, and we're making progress on both fronts. So part of this has been the general kind of narrowing down of issues that goes on in a development of this site, of this type. And so I think we're making sufficient progress, and we can find a way to brief commission. We just haven't had the opportunity yet.
So maybe we can get some briefings, at least so that the commissioners and that we're all updated, but knowing that what's before us today is because the need for additional due diligence.
Right, and again, I don't think my frustration is the fact that I know these things take time. I still think that we gave them a year to do 3 different things, and we continue to talk about one of those aspects, but we have no at least public movement on, I understand real estate transactions, we can be in executive session to talk about those because of the sensitive nature of the negotiations, but it's still, we don't know where we're at on this, and we're out trying to figure out how to let a development happen, and we still really don't know if that, the ultimate sale price of that property is going to allow us to do what we need to do. And I just feel like we're really out of order on this still. And I really have reservations about giving them another year. I really do. I don't think, if they couldn't perform in the first year to get me to the point that I can have some sort of tangible understanding of where we may move our city services, it's really difficult to say, well, let's give you another year and hope we can come to some sort of make all these pieces come together. So.
Eric or Kara, do you want to respond to that? I'm,
Sure, not to be.
it's a complex project.
It is. And so in the end, if it doesn't all come together, as you've described, Commissioner, we aren't going to do it. So, so we understand that too, and that's the kind of the template under which we've been working. So it will all come together in the end, or it won't. And it's just a matter of timing and complication and getting to the point where we hit the next step to move forward. So and it is a real estate transaction. We've been working to identify various parcels and do test fits. We've looked at a couple, and we can talk about that privately. We don't want to disclose where we're searching, because that would complicate matters even more. So, but know that activity is going on, and we will be very responsible about this as we move forward.
Yeah, and I'll say, Commissioner, I hear what you're saying. I realize this is a big project, but I also think about the past, and we've given extensions. I mean, we gave multiple year extensions on the project on North Monroe. We've given extensions to developers who've had options on city property. I think we gave up to 5 years to one developer for a potential option on city property. So in hindsight, I don't think this is incredibly unusual. I mean, the decision was made less than, I don't even know, probably 7 months ago. I'm comfortable giving 12 more months to work this out, because it is a complicated project, and I really don't see it as that unusual considering our past extensions when it comes to property or potential property development. Commissioner Kelly?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I know we got, after about 3-4 years, we started to really push on the North Monroe project and say, you've got to wrap this up. But this is far more complex, and I think no matter who has this contract, they would have the same difficulty in terms of all of the working parts we've got to remove. What we've got there, we've got to relocate, we've got to deal with stormwater infrastructure. We're right on the edge of the river. So I just don't think that this is terribly unusual, and that I just don't want to interrupt it and have to start over.
Yeah, and I mean, it took us over 3 years even just to wrap up the North Monroe Park project with MSU and the county.
Mm-hmm.
So just to give a little context. Commissioner?
From my perspective, as I look at this project, and I was not on this committee, so I'm looking at this from a different level and a different lens. I do believe that, if I may, I think potentially we might have overswung for the fences a little bit by adding every single thing we possibly ever wanted on this site. I mean, we had a laundry list of things, and I would think that a year later, having spent $335,000 of the city's money, before we approve an extension, it at least would have been a good idea to have a closed session so we can get an update on what we got for that money, at least to this point, rather than just blanketly doing that. So that's, from my perspective, I think, and I don't know if we could do that as far as a real estate transit, or at least some kind of an update rather than just coming to us saying, give us another extension. Even what we are able to know, like, it could be, I don't know what it is. So we're dealing blindly here. It could be simply the company feels that these 3 requirements are a bit of a problem, so because of that, we need an extension. That's not divulging any information. I don't know why they need the extension, but I would think that before we give a 12-month extension, I have no problem with it. I'm having a problem with how it was brought to us, that I think because we spent this much of our city's money, I think we would have a responsibility to at least know what some of the problems are in general without divulging confidential information. That's my perspective.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I'll ask our city attorney and our interim city manager to get some additional detail that commissioners would like to have.
Can we table it until we see that, or is that?
How time sensitive is this?
That's a
Yeah,
good question.
that's my
And
question.
I guess I'll look to Kara and Eric, who've been working on this. And again, this is an extension of time, not money, so
Sure.
I think that's also important to distinguish here.
Yeah.
So if we got the cart before the horse, I apologize for that. Nothing has really changed in the project except it's taking longer to get done than we thought. So that's why we brought it the way we did. If there is, I don't know that anybody's saying that you have a problem proceeding, because we are, either we extend the contract or we stop. So really, and I don't think we're ready to call it a day, because I think we're making progress. So if it's okay, we can work out the way to have a briefing along the way and get that done soon, but maybe proceed now, because the contract, I believe, is expired, right, Karen?
Okay.
So I'd like to keep the work moving so we don't have further time issues.
Okay. Commissioner?
And I guess on the flip side, I would respect the fact that they're saying we need more time, but they're not asking for more money, so that is a good thing. Again, I think if we don't renew the contract, then we're starting at zero and we've wasted the money. So I'm just suggesting that on a going forward basis, whatever information we can have, so that when we make this decision to extend, we have at least some information as to why it was done.
In the future, absolutely. So I'll make sure that
Well
message
noted.
is really
Yep.
cleared to our interim city manager. And then secondly, I will ask Kara or Eric to get on all of your schedules to provide an update and answer any questions that you have. So, all right, any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, it carries. All right, next up will take us to a resolution authorizing the assistant to the city manager to approve contracts and authorization disbursements from funds budgeted in support of the SAFE report. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Kane, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Commissioners, Mayor, and City Manager. This is another opportunity for SAFE Pitch and Highlight Night. We did one in early December. Great energy in the room, a lot of positive feedback. I'm a little early when it comes to outcomes, but preliminarily, I can tell you that the work that we've been doing with, we funded a human trafficking, human trafficking means to stop human trafficking, also a program to provide recreational opportunities for children. Those things have been going quite well. I can give you a full update at a later time. So this is SAFE Pitch and Highlight Night brought forward by the SAFE Task Force. Recall that there are 61 recommendations, all aimed at reducing violence in our community. The novel approach is that this is community-based. We have community people around the table, along with city staff. We have the Grand Rapids Police Department. We have community activists, people that are in the community doing the work to reduce violence, and that task force would like your approval to approve another round of these SAFE Pitch and Highlight Nights. We are asking for an increase in funds. For individuals, it was $500 the last time around. $500 once you start working on the project and buy some supplies. $500 doesn't go too far, so we're asking to increase that to $1,000. For the nonprofit organizations, we're asking to increase that to $10,000. That $10,000 is obviously more money, but I think that it's more opportunity to leverage the community's voice and to get outcomes that are good for all. So that is the ask, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, commissioners, any questions, Commissioner?
I was at the event, and in my opinion, I thought it was wildly successful. Some of the ideas were just really creative, just outside the box, and from entities that don't normally participate in this kind of thing, which was exciting to me. So we're bringing new players to the table. So I strongly support increasing the amount, and I would encourage, and you all have a committee that makes these decisions. I would have liked to have even seen more of those initial getting funded as opposed to the few that were funded. I felt there were some that were legitimate enough that I felt I would have liked to have seen more get the award. So I like the increase of funding. I think this is a good program, and I encourage it to go deeper and more broadly.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I think all of us who were there felt the same way. And I know that, there's always positive things that come that we don't anticipate from something like this. And I know some of us met afterwards with some of the folks who presented, and were able to connect them with other resources and other organizations. And I know that there's been some really positive things that have come out of that as well. So I share your sentiment. Any other questions or comments? Kelly?
Just that I think that this is a prime example of what the community has been coming to us with, asking that they take part in the solution around anti-violence initiatives, around police-community relations. So we're seeing it. I love seeing it from the community side as well as the police side. I know the police, we saw the report this weekend about the karaoke with the cops in the car. I know that Officer Craig Clowney was all day at an event in Crescent on Saturday. And yet we've also got all these great initiatives, and out of those, I hope that we are going to really start to crack this nut and really develop those good, close relationships that we need to. But we can't do it without hearing community voice, and this is one of those ways to obtain that voice and to find things that hopefully we can carry on in the future, whether it's through our Parks Department or our Police Department or all these other independent entities that can work with us, which was the whole goal of the SAFE initiative that Commissioner Lanier engaged us with in the larger community.
Yeah. Anything to add, Commissioner Lanier?
I'll just quickly add, Santi, you did a really good job at presenting.
Yes.
So proud of you. And we will, the SAFE Task Force, actually at our last meeting, we set a schedule for doing this more frequently.
Okay.
So we're looking at 2 pitch nights a year. So to your point, Commissioner Allen, about how do we do more of this? So we're looking at having these twice a year. And for those projects that require more than the funding that's allocated here, having RFPs go out a couple times a year as well, so that we can kind of keep the momentum going. So thank you for those words and everyone who's rendered support.
Thank you. All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. Sante, you can stay right up there for the next one. This is a resolution authorizing the investment of $10,000 in the Restorative Justice Conferencing Program of the Dispute Resolution Center of West Michigan.
Yeah, so, excuse me, sorry.
Okay, so I have a so
moved.
moved
Support.
and support. So it's on the table.
Yes, ma'am. So this is an opportunity to, there's been lots of talk around the SAFE Task Force around restorative justice and what types of options there might be out there that the city would want to be involved in. We did not know, but we're excited to, when we did hear about the Kent County Prosecutor's Office, the Grand Rapids City Attorney's Enforcement Division, and the Dispute Resolution Center. They've been working on a pilot program to bring a restorative justice option when it comes to certain juveniles who have done certain crimes in Kent County. And so they've been working on this pilot. They're up and running, and the SAFE Task Force would like to help them along their way. We think that there's some good outcomes there for juveniles in our community. You know, once you get involved in that criminal justice system, once you get a little bit into it, it's very hard to dig yourself out. Me, frankly, I mean, 93 in Atlanta, you know, when I was running around there, if I had made some different options, I might not be here today. So I think this is an option to get people, to let people not be in the criminal justice system. It's not, the funds would only be allocated if they can find some other support around the community. So I am in talks with some people at the county, and obviously Chris Becker and Angela Ross in our City Attorney's Office are also supporters. So this would be a $10,000 ask for support to help getting this restorative justice juvenile program off the ground.
Great. So a couple things, commissioners. Those of you who weren't around this table, it is probably about 9 years ago, the City Commission, we allocated about $50,000 to our City Attorney's Office to implement a pilot around restorative justice. And unfortunately, it was right kind of in the throes of the economic downturn, and it really didn't become what we had hoped it to become. So many of you remember that when our city attorney was appointed, on her short list was to revisit restorative justice, knowing that this is a program that is evidence-based and has really good data behind it if it's implemented true to the fidelity of the model. And I just want to say how much I appreciate the city attorney, Angela Ross, but also our new Kent County Prosecutor, Chris Becker, who has really taken this on, believes in the program. They're working really closely with the partners at Dispute Resolution to embed this into our work, especially for juveniles. And so I'm very supportive of this. I'm glad to see it come forward. I was supportive 9 years ago, and I was disappointed then that it didn't move forward. We all know that there's an active group in our community that has been advocating for years around restorative justice and are working with the public schools as well. So I'm glad to see this move forward. I'm happy to lend my voice of support and encourage our partners at the county to contribute as well, because I think that is essential, that this is a true partnership between the city and the county. So, Commissioner?
Thank you, Mayor, for that support. The other thing I'll add is that Dispute Resolution Center is trying to raise, I think it's $50,000 for 2 years.
That was something that came.
So it's very likely that next year we'll probably bring back another request for the second year of this pilot program. But I'm grateful that you're interested in having some conversations with the county to encourage them to participate and support this as well. Our funding will go specifically towards those who are participating who are residents of the city of Grand Rapids. I think that was how we narrowed it
Yes,
down
yes.
versus where the crime took place. So just so that the citizens of Grand Rapids are aware, this is specific to those who are juveniles in Grand Rapids.
Great. And Commissioner, thank you for your work on this as well. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, next that will take us to our final resolution, a resolution setting a public hearing on establishing property taxes and proposed fiscal year 2019 budget.
So moved.
All right, Jeff, you want to tell us about this?
Sure. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. So this is a ordinance will establish a public hearing for June 5th at your Commission Night Out meeting. And this will set the property tax millage rate and the FY19 budget. You will see in the exhibit, we're actually proposing a small decrease due to a Headley rollback. There was a 0.9927 rollback. So the total mills will be 8.9710, and you can see the allocation in the chart. For the average homeowner in Grand Rapids, their taxable value increased slightly, so this will increase their tax bill just under $18.
Great.
And just so you know, I will not be at that public hearing because my daughter's graduating, but I will have staff there to answer questions.
Nice. Congratulations.
My last one.
Congratulations.
There'll be plenty of more budget stuff.
And Commissioners, just a reminder, this is a commission night out on June 5th. And that is at Harrison Park School
Oh, great.
over on the west side. So, questions about this? All right, so we're teed up for public hearing on the 5th and then hopefully adoption of our budget on June 12th. All right, so I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries.
Thank you.
All right, next Commissioners, I have, I just realized I looked at my notes. I'd like to call the question to go into executive session. We have 3 legal opinions to discuss, and then 1 pending litigation. Correct, right? Can I do a roll call for all 4? Yes. Okay, so can I get a motion to go immediately into executive session? This will be on the 6th floor in the Attorney's Office Library. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support. All right, and then I'll go down the line. Commissioner Arpart?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes?
Lanier?
Yes.
O'Connor?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
And yes. All right, we are adjourned and we'll go into executive session. We're back in here at 1 o'clock for our budget session. Here you go.